Yes, we are back. Let It Rain Radio with the hostess with the mostest. And I got with me Mr. Ash
Yes,
Cash
ma'am. Yes,
himself.
ma'am.
What's
Yes.
going on?
I'm here. Happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming.
My
Remember,
pleasure.
him and I met Ash Cash at, again, I'm going to say it, the Activate 2K14
Yes,
Lucinda
fat shout
Cross.
to Lucinda. That's the homie.
Yes, that's
Fat
the girl.
shout. Yes,
That's
yes.
Mama
Absolutely.
Activator.
Absolutely.
That's Mama Activator. So,
Activate.
yeah, so I got to briefly interview you, but I definitely, once I saw you on that, that panel, I was like, I have to get him on my show. You had the books and told, and you seemed like such a great, just inspirational man. And everybody has issues with their finances these days.
Absolutely.
And when I read your bio, it says that you've been in banking for over 10 years.
Yep.
You've helped people with retirement, with mortgages and things of that nature. But what made you want to actually write a book and help, individuals outside of your career?
Right. So, I mean, it started. So I've been in banking 14 years. I've done everything in banking from teller, personal banker, private banker, branch manager. Last position I held was a CEO of a credit union in Long Island City, New York. But I'm from the projects, right? So
Hello, how you doing,
I
project?
got my PhD, right? But it's not a doctorate degree, right? It's my public housing degree. So I grew up in the St. Nicholas houses in Harlem, New York. Fast shout to St. Nick, 129th
Shout out.
Ave, you know what I mean?
Okay.
And so I've been on both sides, right? So I've been on the side of understanding, how it is to be poor, and then being able to work my way out of it, being able to have clients that were multimillionaires and work with people. I realized that there's a mindset, that money is a mindset. It's not about where you come from. It's not about your background. It's not about any of that. It's really your mindset. It's how you think about money and your relationship with money that determines how you act with money, whether you have money, whether you keep money, things of that nature. And I felt like in our community, there's no one really talking to us.
No, not at all.
And so I said, shame on me if I am from this neighborhood. I speak the language, right? So I could talk to the gangsters on the corner, or I could talk to the CEOs of the boardroom. So shame on me if I have this knowledge and not go back to the people who really need the knowledge, not the people who can pay for it or have somebody else to do it, but the people who really need this knowledge. And that's what's been my life mission. And when I was reading books, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I read Richest Man in Babylon. I read Think and Grow Rich. All of the books that are on finance, which are great books, by the way. But I felt like we needed a book that talks specifically to us about money, and gave examples of people who we recognize about their journeys, and that's what I did with Mind Right, Money Right, 10 Laws of Financial Freedom, and since then I've just been wanting to make sure I give out the knowledge any way I can to empower the people.
Yeah, because growing up in the project as well.
Yep.
Well, what we remember is the grandma, nana, everything. The bank was the mattress.
Right, absolutely.
It was a mattress, or the nice little shoulder. I would like to say little purse.
Right.
Like you be like, Grandma, can I get $1? And she going in her shirt.
Right. We know about that.
Or you get out of my room
Sweaty
first.
dollar.
Exactly. But people don't realize how important it is to actually be financial savvy and to actually teach that at a young age.
Absolutely.
So I have a lot of questions. Okay, the first one is, let me see. I have a whole bunch.
Yep.
Which one do I want? Okay. So what is the best way? Because a lot of young people I'm seeing these days really want to become financial savvy. Okay, and this is actually from my intern. What is the best way for young adults to build their credit and stabilize their finances?
All right, so, and this is for young adults, this is for old adults, this is for everybody, right? I think that first and foremost, in order to stabilize your credit and to get your credit together, you have to understand how it works, right? So it's like if you were a sports figure and you were playing basketball, but you didn't know the rules of basketball, you wouldn't really be successful playing basketball. So same thing with credit is that there's rules behind credit, how it works, right? So 35, 30, 15, 10, 10, 35, 30, 15, 10, 10. 35% of your score is your payment history, 30% is your usage ratio, 15% is the length of history, 10% is the credit mix, and the other 10% is any new credit that you get. Understanding that 35% of your score is your payment history. So as long as you're paying your bills back on time, you're going to affect 35% of your score positively. 30% is your usage ratio, which is where people mess up the most, is that people think that because they have a credit card with $1,000 limit, they could use $1,000. That actually negatively impacts your score. You should only be using up to 30% of your available credit. So if you have a $1,000 card, you need to pretend as if you have a $300 card, which is 30% of the $1,000, and that will positively affect your score. So that's the first thing, is really understanding how credit works and then using those laws and that formula to your advantage. That's one thing. Second thing, also on getting your finances together, it's really about automating it, right? So Mama used to teach us all the time, out of sight, out of mind, right? And I think that, with when you turn on the TV, even in videos and shows, everything you watch, they're selling you something. You don't even realize it, but they're selling you a lifestyle. They're selling you something. So you're bombarded with all of these messages that you need to buy. So it's very difficult to trust yourself to not have that impulse. So even myself, like I can't trust myself. I love nice things, so I'm gonna, my impulse, if I got it, I'm gonna spend it. So it's really about automating your finances. It's about separating. It's about having setting up. I usually tell people to set up three different bank accounts. Have a bill account, a spending account, and a savings account, right? And have your budget automatically go to a wherever you're gonna pay your bills, go to a bill account. Don't have a debit card for it, and pay your bills online, right?
Exactly.
Separate the money that you have to spend and have that go into an account, and you can have a debit card for that account. But you'll only spend what you see. So if automatically you have $300 a month for spending, then you'll know your limit is $300. And then automate your savings to make sure that you're saving. So just make it automatic. Stop trusting yourself so much. I don't trust myself. You can't trust yourself.
Man, I like that shot. But you know what? It's so. I'm a little proud of myself because that's exactly what I do. I have a bank account where I put, like, as soon as I get paid, I split my money down, all my bills. Everything goes into separate accounts. Yep. And then whatever's left over in checking is whatever's left over in checking.
Absolutely.
That is it.
And back in the day, it was called the envelope system. So that's how they did it, right? So back in the day, you took out a whole bunch of, this is how budgets used to be done. You take a whole bunch of envelopes and you wrote groceries, you wrote bills, you wrote everything on the envelope. You got paid, you got your money in cash, you put the money in the different envelopes. And then once the grocery envelope was done, then that was it. You know what I'm saying? So it's the same concept.
You lick the envelope.
Exactly. Right? So it's the same concept. It's just really doing it, digitally now.
So I also have a question. What happens when, like, say for instance, you can pay all your bills, but you have a lot of revolving bills? Does that negatively impact your score? So
it really depends, because a lot of bills aren't reported on your credit report. So it depends if the bill, like let's say like your Con Ed bill, if like all like cable bills, some of those bills are not even reported on your credit report if you're paying it back on time. If you don't pay it, then it does reflect negatively on it. If you have revolving credit cards and revolving and loans, which are clotheslines, the revolving, you can have as many of them as you want as long as you follow that rule of 30%, right? So let's say the aggregate of
over
all,
30%,
right? And that, like, if the aggregate, like, if let's say you have 30 credit cards, which I wouldn't advise anybody to have 30 cards, but let's say you had 30 credit cards, and when you add up all the limits, as long as what you're spending doesn't go over 30%, you're fine. So
it's not on individual cards.
No.
It's all of them as a whole.
It's the aggregate, right? So let's say, for instance, right. So let's say, for instance, somebody has $10,000 in available credit broken down into 4 cards, and they max out one card. That's fine, because the other 4 cards, which they're not using, kind of takes the weight off. So it's the aggregate of all the cards.
You had me a little. I was about to start sweating in here, like, ooh. I mean, I'm very good with my bills. I have to say that I do pay my bills. It's just what's left over in the checking is, like I said, is what's left over in the checking.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay, so another thing. All right, hold on. Now, what do you recommend for someone who has a lot of revolving credit? Like, they have maybe 4 credit cards and they owe a balance on each, and loans and things of that nature, and they want to get out of debt. They want to eliminate their debt as much as possible. What steps should they take in order to do that?
Okay, so in my book, What the FICO 12 Steps to Repairing Your Credit, I talk about snowballing. And snowballing is the easiest way to get out of debt. And what that means is, a lot of other financial advisors will start talking to you about interest rates and pay with the highest interest rate and all that stuff. Listen, I'm more of a mindset architect. That's what they call me, right? So I work on your mindset, right? So what I want to do is I want to get you some small wins. So I say take all of your debt and put it from smallest to highest, right? And start paying off the smallest debt first. The reason why you do that, no matter what the interest rate is, the reason why you do that is that as you pay off that small debt, you're going to feel good about yourself. You're going to say, look, I had 5 credit cards, now I paid off this one, I got 4 left. And then you keep doing that, and the snowball just means, like, if you think about a snowball that starts off small and it starts to roll and eventually gets bigger and bigger, what happens is that money that you were allocating towards that first debt, you now can take it and snowball it towards the second debt and keep paying it off until you have one credit card that with a large balance, and then you start bringing it down that way. So you snowball the debt. You still want to pay minimums on the other cards, but that's what you do. You pay the minimums on the other cards, and then just take whatever's left over and pay that one, that one bill. And the point of it is to get, is to get some small wins early on. So from a mental perspective, you like, yeah, all right, I'm gonna stick to this.
I'm getting somewhere. It's like when even like you're exercising and you start to see these small, I lost an inch here, I lost an inch, so it makes you want to do
motivation,
it more.
like,
that's that motivation, like, shoot.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that you pay off these small credit cards and then go shopping.
No, absolutely not. And actually, I say, even if you have 5 or so credit cards, I always say you should only have one active, right? So you shouldn't be using 5 or 6 cards. Maybe cut up the cards if you're not going to use it, because you don't want to close the cards, and that's the biggest mistake a lot of people do too. They pay off these cards and they close it, and what happens is that it brings down their usage ratio, but then also you get rid of like positive credit history. So you don't want to you don't want to get rid of them. Even a tip that some people follow is, you have a card for emergency purposes, take it and put it in a bowl of water and then freeze it. Right, and so that way.
I've never heard that.
Right.
So the reason
I got a lot of cards I need to freeze. Right. I got a lot of emergencies.
Right, exactly. You put, what I'm saying, you take the card, you put it in a bowl of water, you freeze it, so that way, in case of emergency, it's out of sight, out of mind. But in case of emergency, you won't be, it's gonna be too much.
But I'm gonna tell you what gets me. It's these store credit cards, right?
Man, it works.
Because you know why? I leave them home, but then be like, "Oh, you got your ID," and I be like, "I do,"
right.
And they be like, "We could just look up your card. We could just look up your account," and I'm like, "Great."
Right, and those are actually the worst, because I've seen people's credit score drop, tremendously. Like, a lot of people do it with furniture, right? They'll go into like the furniture store, and the furniture store will be like, "Oh, we're gonna give you credit." What happens is that they're giving you a revolving line of credit. So if they give you a $7,000 line, let's say, and you use the whole $7,000, you're at 100% usage, which is 30% of your score. It's gonna drop your score almost immediately. So you want to make sure you look out for those.
I am so glad that you were here, because I did not know
That's
any
true.
of this.
Like,
This 30% rule and.
Like when you go to a furniture store, like you said, I'm sorry to cut you
No,
off.
no,
But
go
when
ahead.
when they usually do it, it's like, okay, what's the total of your whole purchase?
Right.
And then we're gonna see if we can give you a credit line. Like that's almost the same amount as what you're trying to buy.
Exactly. And then immediately they drop your credit score.
Wow.
Because that's 30% of your score is your
That's
usage.
crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't even-
Okay, wow. I'm like, whoo.
Yeah.
Look at that. So my thing also with trying to, because I give my sons allowance every time I get paid, and I'm trying to teach them. They save their money.
Yep.
They do. I have to say that they save their money. But my question is, like, say if they got into, that they were like 14, 15 years old, and they themselves wanted to decide, like, I want to open up a bank account, or I want to open up a college fund. Are children allowed to do that solely, or is that something that the parent, I mean, of course the parent would have to oversee it, but if they wanted to initiate it and have it, I guess the parent has to control it till they're 18.
Exactly. So anything under 18, they're still minors, so they can't get into any contracts or anything by themselves. So they would need a parent to do a custodial account. There are some financial institutions that would allow the kid to get their own card, though. So you would still have to be on the account with them. Some financial institutions only give you access to it, and you as the parent could give them the card. It would have your name on it or whatever. But there are some financial institutions that will give the kid a card in their name. You know, like they have high school checking accounts and college accounts and kids accounts that they could use themselves, which is a great idea. I think that it's important to start our kids early. You know, I have a daughter. My daughter's 6 years old, and my daughter has a bank account. And every time I give her money, I teach her now that you can only spend half of it, and the other half needs to go to a bank account. And we go to the bank together. Only thing I do is I tell her the account number. But she has to say good morning. She has to say hi. I want to make a deposit. Kind of get her used to making that deposit.
That's really good.
Because I think that one of the things that that hindered us as minorities is that in our neighborhood, our parents didn't talk to us about money. Don't talk to me about money, right? So don't ask me about money. Don't talk to me about money. Like, fix your face. You get
you get what you gonna get when
exactly,
you get it.
Exactly, right.
When I get it.
And that was the wrong message, because we didn't know if our parents were struggling or not. We didn't know what was happening. Like, we guessed it. Like, we was like, you probably struggling, but we still asked, and we still kind of pushed them to that limit, and we didn't really get a good value of how money worked, and that money is earned, and that you have to save money, and you can't always just spend. So a lot of it started because like, even for me, like I'm no exception to it. Single parent home. My mom was the only one taking care of us. I didn't know anything about credit until I messed it up, right? So I was 18 years old. First job at a bank. I had a good job, I was making decent money. They started giving me credit cards immediately. So that back in the day when they had the Finger Hut, remember Finger Hut?
Yeah, everybody remembers Finger Hut.
So I had the Finger Hut. I was in a small little bedroom apartment. I went and bought I got rid of my bed. I got a futon. What was the big size back in the day? 27-inch. It wasn't 40 and 55 like they do it now.
They had those big backs.
Yeah, exactly. But back in the day, like, I'm not that old, but when I was coming up, when I was coming up, like 27-inch flat screen was it. So I had the 27-inch flat screen. I had the DVD when they was like $500. You know what I'm saying? I had the surround sound in a little, like, my room was probably from like this big. You know what I'm saying? But I messed my credit up, tremendously, because I didn't know anything about it. So it took me time to kind of, learning and to get it back to where it needed to be. But a lot of times we're not taught it. So our first experience with credit, or our first experience with money, is when it's too late, when we're of age to get it, and then we don't know what to do with it.
It's usually a negative experience, and that's what we're trying to do with the children, not have them go through anything negative. Let it just be a positive. Right. But this is one question that I've been waiting to ask. Yeah. What the FICO?
What the FICO?
What the FICO?
Yeah.
What made you come up with this name? First of all, I love it.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
I just want to run around and be like, what the FICO? To everybody.
So FICO is the scoring system. So your FICO score. So your credit score is really a FICO score started by Fair Isaac Corporation. And it actually started as an article I wrote for MSNBC back in 2010, I think. So I wrote. I used to write for MSNBC. Okay. And the Griot, and they wanted me to write an article about credit, but the bad side about credit, right? So I started out the article saying that credit is a curse. It's a gift or a curse. So then it was just really a play on words. So it's like WTF, Then I said, what the FICO, and then the story went well. It was like a real popular story. So I wanted to expound on it, and I just it was so people loved it because of the title. Like the article did so well because of the title. So I was like, why not keep it as a book? It's just like a perfect title for a book. So
and look at that, 2 bestsellers.
Absolutely.
And so tell us about your book.
Yep.
It was. In the eyes of a 3-year-old.
Oh yeah, that's Taylor's Way. Yeah,
Taylor's Way, your daughter's book.
Yeah, so that's the motivation. So I'm the financial motivator. So there's 2 sides, right? So I don't only talk about money because I feel like in order to get your money right, you have to get your mind right first, right? So you got to work on the mindset first. And so the motivational side of me is that where that daddy-daughter relationship is that type of love is a love that you anybody who have ever experienced it, it's like a unconditional love. And when my daughter was born, she changed my life, where I started to watch and see how she, how she comes out in the world. So like her intuition was keen. She wasn't afraid of anything. There were just so many lessons that I learned, and I truly believe that kids know how to live life.
They
right?
do.
They know how to live life, instinctively, intuitively. What happens is that as they get older, we as adults, we impose our experiences onto them. So we scare the intuition out of them. So watching my daughter as a 3-year-old, there were just so many lessons that I learned from her. So I wanted to pin it into a book. So the book is called Taylor's Way, Life Lessons Through the Eyes of a 3-Year-Old, where I give you 15 lessons of different things that you should tap into your inner child in order to live a great life. And it was, it was a great experience because, I was able to really, really study and watch her and look at all these different lessons that she taught me. Like, I've grown a lot since she was born. And I just wanted to kind of share that knowledge. That's one of the things that my message has always been, and I continue to spread that message, is that, we can't hold our gifts like it's ours, right?
Very
like
true.
It's not our gifts. When I think about, all the things I've been through, growing up in the projects, kicked out of school, I could tell you a bunch of stuff that I've seen, I've been through, I've done. And then when I look back and I see all of my friends, and out of all of us, it's about 2 or 3 of us who aren't dead or in jail, I say to myself, why me? And I realize it's because, God wanted to use me, use my lesson, use my story. And it's not really even my story. I'm just being used. So we have to give out those gifts. And that's why I continue, to write, to spread messages and spread positivity, because this is a gift that I have to give. It's not mine to hold on to.
Well, we definitely appreciate that. I definitely appreciate that. Hello. 30% rule. I got to remember that in my mind. That's right here. It's right here. I'm going to tattoo it on my forehead. I can tattoo it on my hand. So when I go to use a credit card, I'm like, girl, you know you're over 30%. You know you're over 30%. You better stop that. But no, we're actually gonna take a really quick break, and then we're gonna come back with the Speak on It segment. And basically, we're just gonna expound on what we're talking about now, the importance of finances. I definitely want to get into this mentorship program that you got going on,
yes.
And that's Team Fresh. And I'll give the acronym when I get back. But my girl DJ Tom Michelle, she's gonna take you out. We're gonna be dancing. So just Let It Rain Radio with the host with the Moses, with my guest Ash Cash, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Hello, we are back. Yes, the Let It Rain Radio with the Let It Rain Radio. Let It Rain Radio. Jeez Louise. I get when I get excited, everybody knows I get a little tongue tied. But yes, it's Let It Rain Radio with the host of the Moses. We got Ash Cash in the building.
Yep.
So
Money Mondays. It's Money Mondays.
Money Mondays. Yes, we like that. Money Monday. I like that. Money Mondays. Let it rain. Not drizzle. We're gonna let it rain in here. But no, I wanted to ask you a question regarding, because just to let you know, guys, this is going to be the Speak On It segment, and we're just going to continue with the discussion about the finances and, how you benefit from it, what you can do. But I want to ask Ash, you have a foundation. It's called Team Fresh, and it's taking every amicable measure of to financially re-educate every spectrum of humanity.
Yes.
Now, tell us more about this.
So it's when I first started it. So and I might stop being a coward and call it what it is. But it was actually Team Fresh taking every amicable measure to financially re-educate every spectrum of the hood. But because of political reasons and my mentors telling me it's gonna be hard to get funding and all that stuff, I changed the hood to humanity. But really, what it is an organization that teaches financial literacy in the inner cities. So we go to churches, we go to inner city schools, community-based organizations, and really just teaching people from inner cities how to change their mindset as it relates to money. And again, like we stated earlier, it's the give back. Because a lot of the information I didn't learn till later on, so it's our obligation. Especially, I heard you talk earlier about Ferguson and what's happening there. And what we need to realize is that nothing's going to change until we do. And what I mean by that is that, a lot of what happens in our community or what's allowed to happen in our community happens because we don't control our dollar. If we controlled our dollar, they wouldn't play with us. They play with us because they think about this, right? So I went, I go to my hood. I go back to Harlem, and Harlem doesn't look like Harlem anymore. It looks like Soho or one of these, midtown places. But think about this for a second. How disrespectful it is when there wasn't a certain demographic living in our neighborhoods. Our delis look like nothing. The flies were around. The stores look horrible. The moment that they started to re-gentrify, which they started bringing a different person into that neighborhood. All of a sudden, the deli owners were like, "Oh, hold on, they're not gonna just take anything. So let's pretty this up. Let's put some nice lights. Let's make sure it's clean. Let's make it bright in here." How disrespectful is that? And the problem is that we, as people, we don't care. Like if we get bad service, or we will spend our money and be disrespected, where other people, you give them the slightest disrespect, they're not going to spend their money. And that's why they have the political power. They have, the police respect them. There's all of these things that go along with that. But it all starts with the dollar.
I say that all the time. And I always talk about this. It's going to be another time. I say it all the time. Somebody be quick to spend some $200 on some Jordans. Yep. Would not spend $200 on anything educational, let alone $20 on something educational, something that is going to benefit their child as educational wise, or to better them in a way that it shows them respect, or like you're saying, to value their money. It's like, especially, I think everybody works Summer Youth. I know I work Summer Youth. Man, when I got that check, I was like, I'm going to Fordham Road. Everybody knows I'm going to Fordham Road. I'm going to buy me some 5411.
Right, 54s, you taking it back.
Yes. Why I drink my quarter water.
Right.
But no one really taught us that we need to put some of that money away.
Absolutely.
We need to be able to be responsible for our money and things of that nature. And I caught on really quick. Yep. After that first check, and it like disappeared, and I had to wait 2 more weeks for the next one. It was like, whoa.
Right.
And my mother was like, "You're not getting anything. You got a job."
Right.
That's it.
Right, exactly.
And then I realized that was it, and I became, since then, I've always worked, thank God. But people don't realize that that's the type of education that our environment, our neighborhoods, the urban communities actually need, because they think that they want instant gratification. They want to walk around with Gucci, this, that, and the third, and don't want to work for it, and don't realize that that Gucci belt set you back. If you would have put that away in a savings account and let that interest build on that, you could have bought 12 Gucci belts and some shoes with it. But people don't realize that. And that's one of the biggest things, especially, so this is why I like that you have this, is it a mentoring group, or it's just?
Yeah, it's a program. So we do mentoring, but we also go around into different, communities and organizations and, do workshops.
Wow, that's amazing. I like that a lot. So I have one more question. So one of my interns, she's right there, Rochelle, she wanted to know, this was her question, if you can go back to a younger you.
Whew. Those questions start like that. You're like, oh man. All right, go ahead, talk to me.
What would you tell your younger self?
Man, that people were lying to me, because I think that for a long time, not that I had low self-esteem, because I always was confident about myself. Not confident, I think I was cocky, right? And I always say the difference between being arrogant and cocky is you use who you are to put other people down. If you're self-confident, it's about your confidence. It's not about other people, So right now I'm self-confident. Like, I don't use who I am and what my abilities are to put anybody down. But growing up, I was cocky and arrogant. The reason for that was because all I kept hearing was what I couldn't be, right? So there was so much negativity. I was going to be dead or in jail, and you're not going to amount to anything. And I listened, so I was, self-fulfilling prophecy. I got kicked. I used to play basketball, actually, and I got kicked out of school a whole bunch of times. I went to 3 different high schools. I got kicked out of elementary school twice. I fought a lot. And the reason for that, though, is because it was anger. It was like people telling me what I couldn't do. But the moment that I was able to realize that people were lying to me, and I put my mind into being successful. The same energy that it took me to be a terror and to do all these negative things, I took that same energy and started putting it towards positive things, and I've done some great things in a short amount of time. And so if I were able to go back and talk to my younger self, I would tell my younger self, listen, don't listen to those people. Those people are telling you that based on their limitations, not yours. Stay focused, be positive, and you know, because I've, you know, even though, like I said, I'm blessed to have done some great things in life, and you know, I continue to break humbly, break barriers. But I kind of wonder, like, what if I do this 10, 20 years ago? Like, what impact would I have had? What further impact would I have had? So, yeah, I think if I were able to go back, it would just say, tell myself, don't listen to those people. And the people who were telling me that now in hindsight, y'all weren't doing nothing either.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying? How you gonna tell me I ain't gonna be?
That's usually the
ones. You gonna tell me I ain't
right?
gonna be ish and you ain't ish. Like,
That's usually the ones. They're gonna be like, you ain't gonna be nothing.
Right.
And here I am, something, and
on
you
the
just
bench.
sitting there
right.
on the bench still.
You on the bench telling me I ain't gonna be. You know what I'm saying? Like, so in hindsight, I'd be like, wait, what are you doing? But
that's usually how it all happens. But I want to thank you so much for coming to our show, for dropping some real knowledge on us, because I've learned a lot today, and I'm telling you that 30% is right. It's stuck. It's stuck on me. That's it. 30%. That's
Absolutely.
it. But give everyone where they can find your books, your
Yes.
social media, anything.
Yes.
If you do speak, because I'm sure you do speaking engagements.
Absolutely.
If people want you, just give all that information.
Yep. So you can find me online, IamAshCash.com, and actually, if you go to my website, I give out a free copy of Mind Right, Money Right, 10 Laws of Financial Freedom. So it's a digital copy, but if you go onto my website and you sign on for my mailing list, you'll get a free copy of Mind Right, Money Right. You can find me on all social media: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. My handle is at IamAshCash. And that's really where I live. I live, online, IamAshCash.com, and all the social media.
Great. So everybody, please check my friend out. He is doing great things, and make sure, because I'm going to get that digital book. I need it in my life. So make sure you support him. Make sure you support us, because what we're doing is we're trying to give back to our communities, our urban communities, our people. We're trying to uplift you guys, give you more knowledge. And that's what it is. That's what I love to do. The Hostess with the Mostess is what I do besides hosting events, because I love to host events. You can catch me on red carpets, because I'm everywhere now. And hey, Diddy again. Hey, Neo. Hey, DJ Khaled. Be the best. He was really cool and down to earth. I gotta give him a good shout out. And Little Mama, she gave me a new slogan, guys. I am now the hostess with the mostest who sips mimosas. And so you already know we do this every second and fourth Monday. So again, this will re-air this upcoming Wednesday as well as next Wednesday on WLLS Radio. And you can look them up on TuneIn or their website, which is WLLSradio.com. And we're going to be taking it out again. Remember, guys, if you want an ad or if you want to be a featured guest, you can hit me up at LIRRADIO7@gmail.com. And my girl, Tom Michelle, is going to take us out, and we will see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you always for listening, and we are letting it rain on you guys. And we're out.